Hello everyone and welcome back to a new type of video, one that I'm calling Decksploration, where we take a new or completely unreleased archetype, or even one that I'm just not super familiar with myself, and we pick it apart, see what it can do, see what combos it can enable, see what sort of playstyle it leans into. First up, we are doing the Killer Tunes. These are set to release, I believe, in December, and they are, as far as I know so far, focused entirely on tuners. They are synchro summoning using only tuners. They lock you into tuners, which is going to be a bit of a problem as we go, but we'll see. And yeah, so that means that this is going to be right off the bat leaning as a synchro archetype before we even get into reading the cards. So let's go ahead and start on that now. So we'll start with the twos. It looks like they're all level twos, level threes. They've got 4, 5, and 6. I guess two of the threes can maybe make the 6. Two spells, one trap. We'll get to those. So starting off with Clip, if this card on the field would be used as synchro material, you can use a tuner in your hand as the other material. So right off the bat, value for playing just tuners, nothing else. You can only use each of these once per turn, and during the opponent's main phase you can summon this card and then synchro summon a tuner. So it is a hand trap. It's an archetypal turn 0 hand trap like we've been getting recently. Synchro summon one tuner. So I guess the idea is you're using one from your hand plus this to make a tuner. So that could be either the 4 or the 5. We'll see what those do in a second. But depending on what those do, that can be very powerful turn 0 disruption. If this card is sent to the grave as synchro material, you can banish a random face-down card from your opponent's extra deck. I love messing with people's extra decks. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love Dogmatica, so this is really fun. But also just good, especially if we're in a very combo-centric meta and everyone's just playing one of their important cards in the extra deck. This can completely ruin someone's game plan. So we're definitely starting off strong, like archetypal hand trap, Dark Thunder. Wait, that has not the big monarchs. What are they called? The vassals. It has vassal stats. I wonder if that is relevant in any. Well, no, because this is definitely not a starter. It's a hand trap, not a starter. So I don't know that you're necessarily searching it anyways. But it is interesting to think about it having vassal stats. Overall starting strong, that's definitely a 3 of, as long as these guys do enough to justify it, we will see. Next up is Mix. Mix is okay, Wind Warrior. You could Rhoda, so if she's a starter, probably she. If she's a starter, you can Rhoda for it, which is cool. If this card would be used to synchro material, okay, so is that just on all of them? Yeah, so if you use any of these guys on the field, you can use a tuner in your hand. So that's pretty cool. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Killer Tune monster from deck or grave to hand, which means this can be ashed and ghost belled, which kind of sucks, but it does let you recur pieces, which is also kind of nice. Except a level 2, so you can't add clip off of that, which is a little bit concerning because I feel like we do want clip as part of our end board, but we'll see. And then if this is set to graveyard as synchro material, you can pop a monster. So it looks like they're probably all going to have some line of text where they get value. That reminds me of Dracotail. So Dracotail, when sent to grave, like as fusion material, they all get extra value. Same thing here, except this is the synchro version. Next up is Rico, which is our first level 3 Fire Fiend. That is absolutely... God, what's the name of it? It's one of the like Red Nova Dragon card. Yeah, this little shit. So if this is used, let's see. If this card is sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon that uses 2 or more tuners as material, you can special summon 1 Fire Fiend from your deck. Wow, that is absolutely perfect. That is basically an archetypal card. I vaguely remembered that existed. And that it could special summon a Fire Fiend. There's probably other ways, like Burning Abyss was all Dark Fiends. I'm sure there's something. Technically you could get this off Tour Guide, which is interesting, but you couldn't then use it for Synchro. And its graveyard effect is to pop a spell trap, so that's not super useful, but you could get her off Tour Guide. That's a thing. Anyways, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Killer Toon monster from deck or grave again, except a level 3. Okay, so that's how you would get Clip as part of your end board. Interesting. And then last up for the monsters, this is a pretty small engine, only 7 main deck pieces. That means even if you wanted to play it like Control and max out every number, you would only have 21 cards, and that's if everything is worth maxing out, which is kind of interesting. Maybe you'd want to play it more as an engine. I haven't seen a lock yet, but I have looked over the cards before and I remember seeing a lock. I'm just not super sure where they are yet, but none of these three do, so maybe it could be used as an engine. And then we've got Q, which is our other level 3 light fairy. I'm always so sad when I see fairies that do really good and strong things, because the generic fairy support is so xenophobic. Like, they just released on Angel Canby, and that is, you can special summon a fairy from your deck, sure, but you can only special summon fairies the entire turn. It is a hard lock. It's not even for rest of turn, which just means the card is useless in 90% of cases where you would want to use it, like summoning a Q, maybe. So if Q is normal summoned, okay, so you wouldn't want to summon it off Canby anyways, you can special summon a tuner from hand, deck, graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except tuners. Interesting, so it special summons any tuner. That means that while it does lock you, it locks you for rest of turn, which is really nice. That means that this can still be used as an engine, you just have to be creative about it. But special summoning any tuner is kind of crazy, because that could be any number of things. The synchro pool for cards that can be made with only tuners is very slim. You're pretty much just making the killer tunes themselves. I think Vanadium can do some stuff. What can you do? Prime Heart can be made with only tuners. Trisukta can't, and I believe Amritara can also be made with only tuners, but that's about it. So you're kind of stuck with these guys if you're choosing to lock yourself with something like Q. But summoning any tuner, there's probably like a main deck tuner that's really good, that is disruptive, that you could just get without having to use it as material, which is really cool. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can excavate the top 2 of your opponent's deck, banish one, and place the other top or bottom. I mean, that's almost as good as hand knowledge, because you get rid of the one that is an issue, and then if the other one you know would be an issue, you can put it on bottom, or if you know you can play through whatever the other one is, you can just leave it on top. That's actually like an incredible disruption that I think is going to be pretty underrated on this card. Okay, so then we're on to spells. Killer Toon Synchro, Quick Play, that's important because that means it can kind of act as a trap. Add a Killer Toon card from deck to hand, that's important because all of these guys get monsters, they don't get the spells or traps, so this is just kind of redundancy on your spells and traps, which is cool. Then immediately after this resolves, you can synchro summon a tuner, and it tuner locks you. You can use 2 per turn. So the 2 per turn clause is kind of interesting because you're not searching this off of anything, but you definitely play it at 3 and hope to see 2 of them, I guess is the idea. Very interesting, because that lets you get these guys, whereas there otherwise wasn't really a way. So maybe this is the 3 of, and these are each 1 ofs that you want to be searching off of synchro. A little bit weird, but okay. Then we have, okay, the field spell, but there's no link 1 to search the field spell. So the field spell lets you normal summon a tuner in addition to your normal summon set. That's good because these guys, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, none of these special summon from hand. You're kind of just reliant on using them from hand as material or clip on the opponent's turn. So that's kind of weird, but getting the extra normal summon does definitely help. Killer Toon Loudness War gains 3,300 attack while your opponent has a tuner on field or in graveyard. I haven't seen a way to put a tuner on the opponent's field or graveyard. Maybe Loudness War, what's that one? Maybe that does it on its own, which would turn it, yeah, because it's got 0 attack, so that just turns it into a boss monster. I'm not sure if that's going to be good, but normal summon's good. And then last effect is you can tribute a tuner, add to hand, or special summon a killer tune from deck, but it locks you into tuners. So this strikes me immediately as the pivot point for the deck. So if we are to play this as an engine, you would want to do, I don't know, probably a Ancient Fairy Dragon line to get you to Killer Tune, which Juke Joint Killer Tune, which contribute a leftover tuner from the engine itself to summon one of these guys, which then lets you do whatever they're capable of doing. That, or you just play 3 synchros and 3 juke joints, and that acts as 6 copies of juke joint, which lets you pivot without needing to search it. Sort of like what I did with Punk Odeon, where you play 3 of the field spell and the terraforming, and if you opened it, you could just go into that engine. You could kind of do the similar thing here, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Punk's probably one of the best engines to play with this, because they have they're very high on tuners, and they also can get to AFD. It's a little bit of a pain to do so, but you can do that, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, so this is kind of the pivot point, where if you can get to this, you can turn your other engine that has a high density of tuners, so that you have 1/2 tribute, into Killer Tune. So that's important to know if we want to run it as an engine. Then last up is Playlist. Traps are historically the hardest card to justify because they are almost always bricks, so it has to do a lot. So target a Killer Tune monster in field or graveyard, apply these effects in sequence, but it tuner locks you. Okay, so a lot of this stuff tuner locks you. Like 4 of the 7 main deck cards, that kind of sucks. Apply its effect that activates if sent to grave as synchro material, then return it to hand. You can activate 2 per turn. Why is it always 2 per turn? Okay, so what that means is that if you set this, you can grab one of these guys back to hand. So for example, Clip, if you use Clip as part of your combo on your first turn, you banish an extra deck card, then you can find your way to Playlist, have Playlist bounce Clip back, banish an extra deck card, and then you can use Clip as a hand trap on the opponent's turn to, well, banish an extra deck card. So that's 3 banishes on top of being able to summon something off of Clip on the opponent's turn, which is really, really good. So this probably justifies its existence at least 1. Again, you'd probably play 3 if you're playing this as a control deck, just because there's not that many names right now. And then, yeah, Red Nova, what was it? You can special summon 1 tuner from hand, deck, or graveyard, yes. So you can summon the Red Nova, and then you can synchro those off into, well, there is a 4 here. There's a 4 that takes only tuners, so that's probably your target, which triggers Red Nova, which can summon the Rico, which can search a monster, and you're off to the races at that point, I'm sure. So Q is a very good starter, obviously. Synchro can get you to Q, which makes it a very good starter. Juke Joint doesn't get you Q's effect. Can Juke Joint add to hand? Oh, yeah, so Juke Joint can add to hand, and then you can use the extra normal summon on this. So if you start with, I don't know, let's say Veiler, because Veiler is a tuner, and Juke Joint, then you can normal summon Veiler, use Juke Joint, tribute the Veiler, add Q to hand, use your extra normal summon on Q, which then gets you Red Nova, and you're off to the races at that point. So that's pretty cool that Juke Joint plus any normal summonable tuner acts as a full combo starter. Pretty nice. So then, extra decks. So here's normally where the meat of it is. This one is a light machine, which is basically nothing. Level 4, no attack. That's 2. Okay, 2 of them have attack, 2 of them don't. That's kind of interesting. If this would be used as synchro material, you can use something in your hand. So it has that. So this is probably just like a thing you climb through rather than an end board piece in that case, if I had to guess. If this card is special summon, you can add any Killer Tune card from deck to hand. That's very important because that is how you get to these guys. Little bit concerned that it's hard to get to a 4 in engine, because even if you start Mix has to add one of these guys, which can't special summon itself from hand, which can't add the Clip, which means you don't have 2 2s, which means getting to your 4 is a little bit of a pain, but Q can do it, and you've got 6 copies of Q, I guess. Maybe it's fine. But you can add any killer tune card, so whatever you're missing, and if this is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can return a card your opponent controls to the hand. Non-targeting bounce is very good, and if you can, actually, let me look at, okay, opponent's main phase, so you can't like bounce a trap on end phase, which is something I'm always on the lookout for, because that's really good against things like stun or Dynamorphia, or just set 5 pass decks in general. You can't do that with this deck because clip has to happen during the main phase, but, you know, still, non-targeted bounce is very nice, especially when it comes as part of searching a card. Anyways, okay, so next up is Red Seal. Red Seal gains 300 attack for each tuner in the graveyard, so again, a little bit of hate on the opponent playing a synchro deck, but I haven't seen, like, much else with that. So I don't know how good that's going to be, especially because of how situational it is. The levels of monsters your opponent controls with 1700 or less attack are increased by 1. So Floodgate, it's a little bit of a floodgate. So who does that mess up? That messes up Yummy immeasurably. It doesn't do anything to Draco Tail. It messes up Canine quite a bit. Like Crystron. Okay, so basically fusion decks are fine. Everyone else it kind of messes up. So that's situational based on the meta. And I'm not sure it'll be good on release, but it is good and important to know that it can do that. Importantly, this names Rico. So naming Rico, which was you, that means that you can use, what is it, Fusion Deployment, Fusion Recruitment, Deployment, you? Yes. Oh no, because that special summons... Is there a synchro version of this? Okay, yeah, I had to do a little bit of searching, but there is a fusion deployment for synchros. It is Synchro Overtake. It just lets you reveal a synchro in your extra deck, choose one of the materials mentioned on it, add to hand, or special summon that monster, but it locks you into synchros. So technically, you could play Synchro Overtake to reveal Red Seal to summon Rico, which looks like a starter if I had to guess, because it searches a monster. So that can act as extra starters for your deck. Then what else does Red Seal do? Because they have to have 3 effects each. During the main phase, you can banish a tuner from your graveyard, target one face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until end of turn. So it's a main phase targeted negate, but it is any card, so it's worse than Lars, but not, like, being worse than Lars is not a bad place to be, I suppose. Little bit underwhelming, but it does come on the back of a floodgate as well, so I can't complain. Next up is Remix. So Remix requires Mix, so that means, yeah, you definitely play the 3 Synchro Overtakes because you can summon either Mix or Rico, which is very important. Gains 1500 attack while your opponent has a tuner on their field or in their graveyard. Still haven't seen a way to force that onto them, but whatever. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, tribute this card, take 2 non-synchro tuners from your graveyard, add 1 to hand, special summon the other, then synchro summon a tuner. So the idea here, I suppose, is that you can grab any 2 of these guys and recycle their grave effect on the opponent's turn. It's interesting because you don't gain long-term value out of that. I guess you grab, what, Clip and Rico, and then use those 2 to synchro summon into Red Seal, which is the Floodgate and Negate, and that also lets Clip banish a card. You can also pop a Spell Trap, which is less important most of the time. So I guess that is a playmaker. Just get into Remix on your turn, pass the turn, and you can do stuff on the opponent's turn. Not too bad. And then last up is Loudness War. This is another light machine, which again has basically no synergies. So level 6, 3000 defense, no attack, requires only tuner, so this one does not name a specific, so the only ones, so Mix and Rico are the ones named specifically. That's okay, those are the ones you want to special summon anyways. You want a normal summon Q, and Clip just kind of does its own thing from hand. So these are the 2 most important to special summon off of Synchro Overtake anyways. So Loudness War says other tuners you control can't be destroyed by card effects and can't be targeted. Notably, that is other tuners, not tuners other than Killer Toon Loudness War, which means if you can make 2 of these, they protect each other. Very important to recognize. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can banish a Killer Toon monster from your graveyard, apply its effect that activates if sent to the graveyard as synchro material. So this is okay. As a big final boss monster, it's okay. In engine, there is no way to turn on the attack boost. There is no way to turn on the attack boost of Remix. You have to just hope that the opponent has tuner. Well, if they Ash you, it turns those on. If they Veiler you, it turns those on, that is an interesting thought, that depending on what the lineup of hand traps looks like, maybe your guys get stronger. The problem is that those are the ones that are on the way out. Outside of, I guess, exactly Draco Tail is playing a bunch of those still, just because they need the monsters. Little bit concerning that our guys have a bunch of effects that are only relevant if the opponent is playing a synchro deck, which is not always the case. Maybe it's better than I'm thinking, but Loudness War specifically gets you access to the non-targeted bounce off of Trackmaker. Do these guys have? No, these guys don't have any effects when sent to grave. So that's a non-targeted bounce, mess with the top, pop a spell trap, pop a monster, or rip something from the extra deck. Honestly, the most powerful thing here is like looping clip to rip 3 or 4 cards from the opponent's extra deck, it feels like. That kind of makes it Dogmatica light but synchro, so I mean, I'm okay with that personally. I'm not sure how good it's going to be. I don't know. So let's see, what does this deck look like if you're playing it pure? You definitely want the 3 clips because that's just hand traps on the opponent's turn. That's just turn 0 plays. 3 mixes, 3 Ricos, because those are searchers, 3 Qs. I think it's just 3 of everything, right? This searches anything you want, and you can activate 2. This, I would say maybe Juke Joint is a 1 of if it was more searchable, but the deck kind of has trouble searching spell traps, so maybe not. Playlist, same thing. I think it would be a 1 of if it was more searchable, but it's not. We definitely only play the 1 Red Nova. That's just to summon off of a normal summon queue, and then we could play 3 overtakes. So this looks like about what the deck would be if you were playing pure, which I guess 25 cards is not that bad. What do you do with the materials, though? I don't know. Let's go look at the basic combo that we can figure out, or a couple of them, because it looks like a lot of these are starters. We'll start with Q. So let's start with Q and see what this does. No shuffling, hand size 1, cool. So normal summon Q. Q can special summon, yeah, Red Nova. Cool, so that works exactly as I'd hoped. And then Trackmaker is a 4, so we can make Trackmaker that, like, oh, that's a big chain. So Trackmaker searches any Killer Toon card, we want to use that. Red Nova summons from deck, we want to use that. And then Q is the one that messes with the top of the deck, which means we can use that to chain block and the opponent can't actually hand trap us or anything, which is pretty cool. So we can banish one, put the other on top of the deck because it's a bad card. And then we can special summon exactly Rico off of Nova and search. Oh man, searching anything is always so overwhelming the first time you see it, because it's like, what do I do here? So Rico on resolution is going to search us at 2. We have used our normal summon, so in theory we could grab, like, Clip, I guess, or something, rip something from the extra deck, go into Red Seal is the only target at the moment. Well, that's not true. We have Trackmaker on board still, so we could go into Loudness War. I'm not sure what is correct here. Well, if we grab Juke Joint lets us tribute something to summon out the mix, which lets us add another 3, but there's no other good 3. We've already been through both of them. Interesting. So it looks like this definitely isn't like a big long combo deck. You kind of just want to open as many pieces as you can, because we're not going to be able to search everything. I can tell that right now. So what if we go juke joint, Rico triggers, adds mix, then we can use the extra normal summon from juke joint on mix, which allows us to add another card, I don't know, like a Q, which we can use as material. We can tribute to summon something from Dex, so we can basically make any two of these at this point. So what is the goal then? So I think Loudness War probably makes it onto the end board. Want to use Track Maker for that, which means we have to use Mix. That's fine, because that protects everything and gives us the most options for disruptions on the opponent's turn. Technically, actually, if I was playing a second Loudness War, we could make the second Loudness War with these materials. That does they then like protect each other, but you can only use the disruption once per turn, so I'm not sure that's good enough. So I'm going to tribute Rico to get a 2, I think. So that has to be mix. Yeah, that has to be mix. Wow, we're not going to be able to search our hand trap. That kind of sucks. And then we can go into remix. Remix gains attack if they have a tuner, which they don't, so I guess we'll throw it in defense, because otherwise it is pitiful. And that's, I guess, what we do off of one card. That gives us any of our effects. But we didn't extra deck rip anything, so that, I don't know, that feels like the good one, but we can't use it as part of the combo, which is kind of weird. So this is, we can mess with their top again if we're still scared of something. We can pop a monster, we can pop a spell trap, we can bounce a card, I guess. Non-targeted bounce isn't that bad. So this is just one versatile disruption. Remix summons, I guess this is how we get into Red Seal. So Remix summons back Rico, which is a spell trap pop when we do that, and then also Mix, which is a monster pop. So we summon those two back, use them as synchro material, pop a spell, pop a monster. We have Red Seal, which can negate something and is a floodgate. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, like 4 or 5 disruptions, which is okay, I guess, off of one card for a control deck. Cool. So that's kind of giving us an idea of what we work with. The thing that concerns me about what we just did is I'm not sure there's room for any exploration, forgive the pun, in that combo. It really is just like you get the bodies, you use the bodies for what they're intended for, and then that's good enough. So I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of using this deck pure. That's probably going to be the best version that normally is, or like, well, I don't know. Normally you throw in like a weird engine that works with it. There's no engines that really work with this deck because they sync or they tuner lock you specifically. That means that even like powerful synchro tuners that you kind of want to use, they don't lock you only from the extra deck. They lock you from the main deck. So that means if you want to use Silvera, which is a very powerful synchro tuner, it requires a non-tuner monster, which is difficult to get on the board. You could, in theory, try to go into like Centurion with Primera Primus, but you need a non-tuner there. So I'm not sure what engines you can really play with this, just because there's no... Oh, well, Zarin, this is a new card. This is a negate. It takes a tuner and a synchro monster, but I'm not sure what the... how this deck gets to a synchro 7, but that is a card to care of that this deck could theoretically put on the field. I'm just not sure how well, actually, yeah, you just go into Track Maker plus any 3 that gets you Zarin, so that's a thing you could do. But for the vast majority of these, you need non-tuner monsters, and the deck locks you into tuners. Amritara, yeah, Amritara is a tuner and a light. Do we actually even have a light? We do. We have Q. So, in theory, there's a way to get like Amritara. Amritara could search Vanadium Reframing. Vanadium Reframing is an Omni-Negate counter trap, so that's pretty tight. but there's not a whole lot of other options here. All of these require non-tuner monsters. A little bit scary, which kind of sucks because there's some good stuff in here. Like Immortal Dragon can start an engine. Danglong was banned because it was so good. Risiella starts a lot of different engines. This can do, if we were locked into tuners from Extra Deck, for example, Risiella could get us to Dogmatica at the end of our combo, and then we can just do full Dogmatica setup on top of that. But this locks us into tuners from the main deck as well, so that's very, very restrictive. So I'm not sure. I will play around with it, and in the next video, now that we've seen kind of what we can do, kind of what support is generally good for them, we will look into building a deck, maybe a couple of them, because I think Pure is going to be the best build, which is honestly just this, basically, with extra copies of your extra deck monsters and then like 15 hand traps, or maybe you trim a trap or something and then play more hand traps, what have you. But I want to do something fun. I want to go and try and, make like a combo-y sort of deck, something that uses a couple different engines. So I think we're going to explore that next time, maybe using this just as an engine that you get to at the end of your combo so that you can set up the full board on top of whatever your primary deck was. So look forward to that on Wednesday. But for now, I hope you liked it, and let me know what you think about the new format. Like, is walking through deck building something that you want to see more of? I don't know. Let me know. But for now, bye-bye.